Started.
Yep. Sky 3.
Tim, we will not talk, Tim.
Hmm?
We will not talk for the time being. Shall we? Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the talk by Dr. Tim Miller Morgan from Oregon University. Greetings from Sophie. Sophie 2020 International Webinar Sustainable Ornamental Fisheries Way Forward. Dr. Tim Miller Morgan will now speak to us on training the next generation of aquatic husbandry professionals in Oregon, USA. Well, let me give you an intro. We have 1,500 registered participants listening from 40 different countries. Well, over to you, Tim. No, just I'll give a bit of introduction about Dr. Tim Miller Morgan. He is a lead veterinarian, aquatic animal health program, Hatfield Marine Science Center, Aquarium, Marine Science Facility, Oregon Seafront, Assistant Professor, Department of Biomedical Science, College of Veterinary Medicine, Oregon State University, USA. Welcome, Dr. Tim Miller Morgan. The screen is all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Minnie. And I wanted to thank Minnie and the organizers for inviting me. And I've enjoyed the previous 2 days and all the discussions. They've been very interesting. So I'm going to flip over to my screen now and get this squared away. And we'll start chatting. So Minnie had asked me to talk a little bit about a program I've been involved in for quite a while now, actually since 2000. So, 20 years now, developing this program. And it's not at Oregon State University. It's at the Oregon Coast Community College, which is a small technical college on the coast near where I live. And let me change this. Okay, my screen's not working the way it's supposed to. Just a minute. There we go. So, this is the Sustainable Ornamental Fisheries webinar. And, if we're going to talk about sustainability, we really need to think about high quality health management and high quality animal husbandry throughout the whole chain of custody. So when we're talking about quality husbandry and quality health management, what we're really talking about is professionalism, professionalizing the industry. And now there's certainly a high level of professionalism throughout the industry already, but there are certainly areas where we can improve. We can always improve if we want to grow and be successful as an industry. We need to begin thinking about standardizing the level of husbandry that we do and our approach to it. So that was one of the ideas behind this particular program, this aquarium science program. So our goal was really to train aquatic animal husbandry professionals with a focus on fish and invertebrate husbandry. We weren't dealing with marine mammals at all, or even birds, and really focus on recirculation systems as the primary focus, although the basic principles that the program would teach would be pretty universal. The program consists of a 2-year degree, which is an Associates of an Applied Science in Aquarium Science, or there is a 1-year certificate if a student comes in with a Bachelor of Science degree in one of the life sciences. Now, at our community college, the Aquarium Science program is actually one of the signature programs there. In fact, it was the first signature program there. Now we have a nursing program and a law enforcement program, but Aquarium Science has been kind of the primary one since the facility was built. So where are we located? Well, we're in the United States. We're on the West Coast, And right up here, this is the state of Oregon, north of California right here. And we're in the area called the Central Coast, right in this area here. And it's a really nice, nice place to be, to have a program. It's right on the ocean, and it's in a relatively rural part of the state too. And Oregon is actually a relatively rural state. There's only one major city in Oregon. There's certainly some smaller ones, but um, this isn't a very rural area, and it's beautiful. So just here's some pictures of the area of Newport. The program is located in Newport, Oregon. It's a commercial fishing port. Um, and right on the coast, right inland is coastal rainforest. So there's a lot of opportunities for our students to get outside and enjoy the environment when they're not in class. Here's another view of our facility, and it gives you an idea, or not of our facility, but of Newport, and it gives you an idea of the area and why it's kind of unique for this program. So this is the Pacific Ocean. This is the Yaquina River, which moves up here. And what's unique about this area is that here's Oregon Coast Community College. This is the area here where the aquarium science program is based. But just a mile away is the Oregon Coast Aquarium, which is a very well thought of a regional public aquarium. And then just adjacent to that property is the Hatfield Marine Science Center, which is the major marine research institution for Oregon State University, but also is the regional research centers for a number of our federal research agencies, as well as state research agencies. And what is unique about our facility too is that we have a small public aquarium there as well, in addition to all of the research facilities that house aquatic animals. So there's plenty of opportunities between these three facilities for our students to get experience in many different aspects of animal husbandry. If we go up the Yaquina River up here, about 10 miles, there's a very large oyster farm up there, and our students have opportunities to work there too. This area you see here, this big dock here, another thing that's unique about our area is that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is a big federal agency that has a large research fleet, their Pacific Fleet headquarters is right here. So all of the research vessels that do research in the Pacific Ocean actually are based there as well. So our students have an opportunity to interact with those scientists as well. So it's a unique area. The Hatfield Marine Science Center and the Oregon Coast Aquarium are great places for our students to get experience. Most of the animals that we house there, the aquatic animals that we house there, are cold water marine animals, although we have a number of displays and systems that hold freshwater and marine tropical animals as well. So this is the Marine Science Center. The aquarium is located here, and the rest of the facilities around it are all research facilities. And then you can see this is the Marine Science Center in the interiors there. You can see how it's set up. And so everyone may want to mute themselves. So I'm getting some feedback through from people chatting. Thanks. This is the Oregon Coast Aquarium, and it's a larger aquarium with a large 2 million gallon walk-through system, as well as the smaller aquariums. But both facilities serve as a great place for us to work with our students and allow some great opportunities for them to spread out and get different experience with different types of systems. We couldn't do this without some of our partnerships. So of course you've seen, the Oregon Coast Aquarium, the Marine Science Center, College of Veterinary Medicine is involved too. I have a number of my colleagues at the veterinary college that help me co-instruct some of the courses I teach. We have the National Science Foundation, which is a major funder early on. And then the NOAA, the different divisions of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has been very involved in some of our programs, and a lot of their staff help with our program and also provide tours for our students during classes. This is the Oregon Coast Community College Central Campus. I'm going to show you this picture now. I'm going to show you another picture later on. that looks a little different. But this is the central campus, and then we also have two small satellite campuses to the north and the south of us, about 30 miles. This picture will look a little different later on, but this is where the aquarium science program is based. So let's talk about the program. If you're going to build a program, you've got to have financial support. And we went about this in a number of ways. Initially, we felt that there was a need for this program, and we submitted a grant to the National Science Foundation to do a needs assessment, because most of the funding agencies, if they were going to give you money to develop a program like this, they wanted to see that there was an actual need. So initially, they gave us about 40,000 US to do a nationwide survey, and we used that information to apply for a larger grant to actually build the program. But we've also received a lot of support locally, and that's what's been really important for us, is the local support. And if another group was thinking of developing a program like this, the local support is really important. So we received funds from our County Economic Development Alliance, the foundation at the community college developed a really neat fundraiser called the Oyster Cloister, where we raised, every year we did this, we raised about $15,000. And basically what we did is we would usually have this at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. It was an evening event, and basically chefs would come in from all over Oregon, and they would prepare oysters in different ways. And then there was a competition. People would wander through, and there was music, and the aquarium was open, but they would try each of these different recipes and then vote on it. And then we brought in professional chefs to actually evaluate them as well. And that was always a fun event, and we got the students involved in it as well, helping with serving and things. And so that was a nice way to raise some funds. The Regional Investment Board was very helpful, and then we received supplemental funding from the National Science Foundation. And then the local First Nations also contributed a small amount of funds, actually, to help us with the marketing of the program. And then we've had significant industry support, and I'll talk about that a little more as we go on. The industry support is key for the success of this program. Well, I'll jump into it a little bit right now. So we have many industry partnerships, and those are zoos and public aquarium fish facilities, importers, exporters, retailers, and production facilities are very supportive of the program. Research laboratories, particularly those that are doing work with aquatic animals. We have a number of zebrafish labs that are very supportive of the program and actually provide opportunities for our students. Resource hatcheries, many in our area, we have a lot of salmon and trout hatcheries, so they provide not only student support and opportunities for our students, but also many of the managers sit on some of our committees. And then the service companies, the companies that are supporting the rest of these industries that produce pumps and filters and plumbing are very supportive as well. And one of the most important aspects of the contribution is what we call a National Visiting Committee. And I'll talk about this a little more later, but basically it's a group of key industry leaders that are involved in evaluating our program annually. And they actually come in, meet with our students, review classes, sit in on classes, run mock interviews. And again, I'll talk about this more later on, but this has been a key to the success of our program. And this is just a picture of one of the group of National Visiting Committee members that came in 2 years ago to evaluate the program. And it rotates, the membership rotates annually as well. So what are some benchmark events for the program? And then I'm going to jump into actually how we actually developed the program. The initial idea came up, was proposed in 2000. And we started working on a grant. At the time, prior to this, I was at the Marine Science Center at Oregon State University in a graduate program, but also working as a veterinarian and the chief aquarist at the aquarium at the Marine Science Center. We had this idea. We received our initial funding for the national survey from the National Science Foundation in 2001. That survey provided us enough information to justify applying for a 3-year grant, which we received in 2002, and began developing courses and getting the program accredited and recruiting students. And we started in the fall of 2003 with the first cohort, and then the second cohort started in the fall of 2004. Throughout this process, we actually were able to get additional grants for student support, again, from the local First Nations, from the local Economic Development Board, and as well as from key industry players. So this September, just last month, we started our 17th cohort, with about 18 students moving through the program, pretty exciting. So how do we develop the program? Well, the first thing we did is we did this nationwide survey. Essentially, it was a needs assessment. Is there a need for a program like this? From that, we moved into a process of developing a curriculum, and we used a standardized process. Some of you that have developed technical programs may be familiar with this. It's called a DACUM, which just stands for developing a curriculum. And it's a standardized approach to developing a curriculum for a technical program, or even for particular tasks within a facility. And we moved from that into curriculum development. And the key here was always having review and input from industry as we moved through the process. So the first thing is we sent out this nationwide needs assessment. We sent out a little over 1,400 surveys. Pretty good response rate for a survey. Those of you who've done surveys, you usually feel pretty good if you get a 30% response. And we received 43% response from employers and 65% response from employees. Public aquariums were particularly responsive. And a lot of that had to do from the fact that they were very interested in sort of the younger generations of aquarists moving into their facilities, because we're looking at large numbers of retirements coming up. A few highlights from the employers. A little more than half of them had difficulty filling positions. When they did hire people, though, they were generally tended to lack subject content and technical skills, as well as some of these other areas that you can read here. But certainly the subject content and the technical skill area was one where they always felt like they had to do some backfilling. So that gave us some information that, well, if we can put out students that have high levels of technical skills, that would give them a little bit of an advantage when they're applying for the jobs. One thing I should say is this program was always intended from the beginning to train what we consider entry-level husbandry professionals. Now, in the public aquarium world, they would be considered entry-level aquarists, and then in other sectors of the industry, depending on the overall level of training within those sectors, they might come in at a higher level than entry level. But in general, we were shooting to train someone who is very competent in the basic husbandry skills required in most of these industries. Here's some highlights of the top skills that all the employers and the employees felt were particularly important. Nothing is going to shock anyone here. Experience with daily animal care, animal health management, basic science knowledge, knowledge of water quality management, but also the principles and the theory of water quality. Record keeping becomes very important, knowledge of your job-related topics, and learning about understanding the principles and having the skill sets to collect and transport animals, understanding life support system maintenance. And then for those that are going into public aquariums or zoos or other museums with live animals, understanding about maintaining the exhibits. When we looked at before this program existed, where did most people get their training? Most of it was on-the-job training. But the other thing that popped up was university education. Many individuals that were working in the field that we surveyed actually had a 4-year degree. And here we were looking at creating a program that that the students would have a 2-year degree. And so it was very important to find out where things stood at the beginning. Certainly, just as all of us, you get training from short courses and seminars, and but very few were getting training in community college. So that led us to asking a question: if we had students coming out with a 2-year community college technical degree that addressed the knowledge and skills that we had mentioned earlier, would they be qualified to work at your organization? Essentially, would they could be competitive for a job? And the majority of the survey respondents said that yes, they would be. So that was something positive for us and suggested that maybe this track of developing this 2-year program would be worthwhile. And then we looked at, would you be willing to hire program graduates? And we looked at we broke that down by employer type, and pretty much everybody said that of course they would be willing to hire these graduates. Probably the lowest one was the educational centers, and it's still more than 50%, but a lot of these individuals are also looking for people that have some background in education itself. Then we wanted to look at practicums and internships. For some of you may not know, a practicum is a short, usually 10 weeks or less, 5 to 8 hours a day working hands-on in a particular facility, whereas an internship is usually a full-time 10 to 12 week opportunity to work in a facility. And we wanted to know, have your organization hired previous interns? Well, yes, most of them had, and that often is one of the better ways to actually get into the field. But the thing that came out of that is that many of these individuals said that the graduates needed to have a lot of real world experience before they came into their facility, and that it was very important. And of course, we kind of look at the internship as beginning to set some of the skills in place that you've worked on as you were going through your program. So how did we develop the curriculum? We had this survey that basically told us there was a need, and now we need to develop a curriculum. Well, we use this process called a DACUM, which is just a shorthand. It's an acronym for developing a curriculum. And this is a process that has been used since the early 70s. It was originally developed in Canada and has been used throughout North America and in other parts of the world as well. And the idea is, what you do is you bring together professionals in the discipline, people that are considered kind of at the top level in their discipline in terms of the practice of that particular skill or profession. And we don't bring in academics. You're bringing in people that are actual husbandry professionals. And one of the reasons you do this is because they are the people that know the job the best. And in my traveling around the US and also to other parts of the world and giving talks about this program, but also other talks, I spent a lot of time talking with industry folks as well as university folks. And one of the big complaints that I've heard was that industry would often come to a college or a university and say, hey, we need, let's pick aquaculture. We need people that are trained to work in aquaculture. And the university says, yes, we'll develop an aquaculture program. But that might be the last time there's any interaction with industry until the first students graduate. And then industry complains, well, they're not really trained to do exactly what we need them to do. So this is one of the reasons for deploying this technique of using a DACUM, developing a curriculum process, so that we can make sure that industry is involved in the beginning developing the curriculum. So the first thing you do, we get everybody together. A typical DACUM workshop lasts for 3 days, and we get all these people together. Usually it's 6 to 12 people, and we go through what's called a job analysis. The first thing they do is identify what are the general areas of competence that are required to do this job at the level we're seeking. So in this case, it would be an entry level. So what are these sort of general areas that we expect them to have knowledge and skills in? And then we go through this process of breaking down each of those general areas of competence into specific skills or knowledge or experience that they have to have. And what happens is you come up with a chart that has this all laid out, all these general areas of competence, and then the specific competencies in each area. So you have this chart. And then what we do is we get another group of professionals together for one day, and they go through this chart and validate it. Basically, they're ground truthing it. Does this seem reasonable? They can't take anything away from that chart, but they can reword things or they can add additional skills. Once that's done, you basically have a chart. Usually it's a spreadsheet that has all of the areas of competence and the specific competencies that are essential to do that job. And then that is turned over to the, the teaching team, the curriculum development team, to actually develop the program. So this is the process that we went through. This is it's kind of messy what it looks like. You start off with, these are these general areas of competence here on the side, these little red stickies. And then these are the specific competencies that you lay out. So this is just an example of what it would look like. We take over a whole wall in a room and start doing this. And what you end up with is a chart that looks like this. Here's each general area of competence, and then here's the specific competencies. And that's kind of what it looks like. And again, it's kind of messy. Here's some pictures of one of these DACOM processes going on. This is actually a process I ran not for developing the aquarium science program, but for developing a standardized curriculum in aquatic veterinary medicine. And so these are all practicing aquatic veterinarians in both these pictures. And here we are. This is during the 3-day workshop. They're developing that initial job research sheet. And then here we are. This is actually one that I did in Singapore, where they're going through the process of validating the chart that this group developed. So, and we have a discussion about things and what's the order of the competencies as they should be learned or practiced and that kind of thing. So that's how we end up with moving forward. We end up with this document that tells us how we need to develop the curriculum. What came out of this whole process is the curriculum needs to be very hands-on. It needs to be very interactive and needs to be focused on problem solving. So the curriculum has lots of wet lab time, and lots of problem-oriented approaches, case-based approaches within the class, as well as some traditional lecture. But there's a lot of interaction and group work and teamwork going on in the program that was developed. So here's what the program looks like. Here's the Associates of Applied Science degree in aquarium science includes general education requirements, 41 credits, and then the specialized aquarium science courses of 51 credits. So the general education requirements are what you might expect in any program: English, composition, technical professional writing in whatever language is appropriate, algebra, series of biology courses. We expect some public speaking, psychology of human relations, or workplace psychology, we call that. There isn't 2 public speaking courses, that's just a duplicate. And then we have an arts and humanities elective and a general elective and the social sciences elective they have to complete. One thing you don't see in here, we do see you saw the biology, there was a chemistry in the series too. We've dropped that because the general education chemistry course wasn't that effective for us. And so what we do now is incorporate that into the existing coursework, the specialized coursework. And we're in the process of developing a chemistry for aquarium science course. So here's the basic aquarium science courses, and then the pictures off to the side give you an idea of some of the hands-on and learning opportunities our students have. We have an introduction to aquarium science course. This is a 100 level course that makes sure everybody starts on the same page. Typically in that course, they're learning about the basics of aquarium keeping, the basics of tool use. So we have a workshop, which I'll show you later. The students have to be checked out to learn how to safely use all these tools. The basics of water quality and health management and life support, just the basic principles. And then right away, they move into these 2 practicums where the students they're required to spend 5 hours a week at a facility nearby, basically doing day-to-day animal husbandry. And we put this early in the program so that the students can essentially get their hands and their feet wet really early on. And they can decide, is this really something I want to do? And we really prefer them to figure that out earlier in the program than later in the program. So we have these practicum experiences. Then we have a course mainly for those that are going into public aquariums on exhibits and interpretation. How do you develop exhibits and how do you interpret what's in there in those exhibits to the public? And again, while most of these entry levels, these would be entry level aquarists, they wouldn't necessarily be required to design exhibits, but they would be required to maintain them. And so they need to have a little bit of understanding of why those exhibits are the way they are. We have a current issues in aquarium science course where we try to talk about the most important emerging issues. So that particular curriculum changes yearly. Right now we're talking about some of the things that Shane mentioned the other day, the importance of biosecurity and invasive species and animal welfare issues and CITES issues. We also have an introduction to scientific diving. It is not an actual diving course. It is basically introducing them to the principles of scientific diving, and included in that, they're also getting CPR and first aid training. Then we get into the really heavy duty courses, biology of captive fish, biology of captive invertebrates. So they have a course on life support system design and operation. All of these are very hands-on courses. Typically in the life support course, they're designing systems and doing the plumbing and getting the system set up with water running through it. We have a reproduction and nutrition of aquatic animals course. And then fish and invertebrate health management. That's one of the courses I teach. Again, all very hands-on. Exhibits and interpretation, I mentioned that already. We also have a biology of diverse captive species. And this is the one opportunity where they learn about some of the other animals they could potentially be involved in. So they get an introduction to the husbandry of seabirds and marine mammals. We used to have a segment on elazobranchs, but based on our feedback from the National Visiting Committee, we've actually broken that out into a separate course now. So we have an elazobranch husbandry course, again, very hands-on, utilizing our partner institutions that are nearby that have large shark collections. The students get a lot of experience handling both large and small sharks. We have another course, this is one I teach, which is aquatic animal husbandry in a research setting, which was not one that was in the original curriculum, but it was added in based on feedback from our visiting committees, in that there were job opportunities in what is now called research aquaculture, producing zebrafish and medaka primarily for biomedical research. And these are very high-tech facilities, and it's very difficult to train a rat and mouse husbandry person to switch them over to zebrafish. So a student coming in with a degree in aquarium science is well positioned to work in that kind of setting. And we have a number of our graduates that not only work in those settings now, but also manage some of these research facilities. We have an opportunity for special projects, and then of course the internship, and these are really opportunities for the students to branch out. The internship is required, and it's really the capstone experience. It's a full-time course at a mutually agreed upon facility. We have a number of facilities that open their doors up to our students. And this is where they really get to set the skills and the knowledge they've learned in place, practice it in the facility under the guidance of mentors at that internship site. We have students that have gone to internships in facilities throughout the US, and we have an increasing number of them that are, not a lot, but a few that are actually going overseas to do their work as well. So the current status of our program, since we started the program in 2003, we've had 172 graduates. It's generally averaged about 50-50 in terms of a gender split, male-female, although it's the most recent classes are skewing more female. And about 45% seek the certificate, so they're coming in with a degree, a bachelor's of science degree. In a biological field, fisheries or biological science or marine biology, something like that. And then 55% are degree seeking. I think the one statistic that's really most gratifying for us is that 95% of our graduates are employed in the field within 6 months of graduation. And all across the board, public aquarium, ornamental fish enterprises, research laboratories, hatcheries. We have a number that have also started their own businesses, that have service companies, or are breeders themselves. And some of those that have service companies, they maintain large aquariums in restaurants, small museums, home aquarium systems they maintain, as well as pond systems as well. And since the program has started, we've received about 1.2 million in grant support. But I think the best was yet to come, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I think there are a number of critical success factors for our program. I think one of the big ones is our relationship with our industry partners. They're providing material support, financial support, internship sites. They'll come in as special lecturers. And then out of those industry partners, we have this National Visiting Committee that comes in annually to assess the classes, evaluate the courses, evaluate the graduates. And one of the things that's unique about the visiting committee is every student goes through a mock interview with 2 to 3 members of the visiting committee every year. So the 2-year students actually get to be interviewed as if a job interview twice during their time in the program. And it's also a great opportunity for the industry folks to kind of figure out the ones they want to keep eyes on and maybe may want to hire later on. We also have a local advisory committee that has a similar role. They're helping evaluate changes in the curriculum or recommending changes in the curriculum, but also, advising on just issues that come up during the year. The local advisory committee meets 3 times a year. And they're, again, all industry people. A number of our faculty members are also involved in that committee as well. And then the National Visiting Committee meets annually. They come in once a year. So we have a program. The other success factors on that is we've developed this appropriate curriculum with our industry partners. We are very attentive to our student selection. There is an interview process, which is unusual for a community college program, but we do interview our students. We spend a lot of time developing internship opportunities, although we do allow our students to develop their own as well. They just need to make sure that we have a chance to work with those sites. And then we have this ongoing evaluation of the program, which means that annually we're constantly making small changes in the program to make sure it's meeting our industry needs. Well, one of the things we always wanted was to have our own teaching facility. And finally, in 2009, we actually received funding to do that. And the funding was basically came from the local community. They passed a local bond issue. Basically, they agreed to tax themselves to raise money to build this facility. And so we broke ground on this in 2010. And this is sort of a schematic of what the building would look like, which is very similar to what it looks like today. So I wanted to end this talk giving you a virtual tour of our aquarium science teaching facility. Originally, this was going to be a video. That's what Minnie and I had talked about, but I thought that I would worry a little bit about connection, so I thought I would just do it with still images. So I'm going to go through this, and then if you have questions about things, we can certainly discuss that when I'm done. So this is the logo. This is on the front of the aquarium science building, and then we'll just jump into the building. If you remember the picture I showed you at the beginning of the Oregon Coast Community College campus, you remember there was just a field here. Well, this is the building. So you drive by it as you drive into the campus. This is the aquarium science building. This is the main campus. All of the courses, the traditional lecture style courses, are actually taught in this wing of the main campus building. And then the students come across the parking lot to the aquarium science building, which is all their labs are and where all of our teaching animals and teaching systems are located. So we're really pleased with the facility. This gives you a look at it from the back. We have solar. We offset some of our energy needs with using solar panels, and then we have these big garage doors so we can move equipment in and out, and we have a nice back supply of aquariums here. And let's go into the building now. So here we go into the lobby. Here's the lobby. And the students spend a lot of time doing group projects and just studying in here. It's a nice space. You can barely see it, but there's a flat screen over here. So sometimes if we're working with small groups, we'll bring images and diagrams up, and we can actually have little mini classes here. This is the hallway that goes down the length of the building. One of the things that's kind of unique is there's these large windows that look into each of the separate laboratories, so that people can come and watch the classes going on, and tours of this facility have become pretty common, but they can watch what's going on in each of the labs, but not enter into the labs to disturb things. This is our main teaching laboratory. It's set up with these stainless steel lab benches all around the outside. So this is where we're teaching, we do fish and invertebrate dissection, teaching necropsy techniques, that kind of thing. But this is also where we'll teach the life support classes taught, and we'll talk about husbandry techniques and things like that. So we've got all these teaching systems in the room that are all different types of setups, and they also can be reconfigured very easily. Excuse me. So, so we can spend a lot of time teaching, and we've designed them so that the life support system is easily accessible. So if we're doing a class on a particular aspects of life support design or something, we may have, a picture of the lecture going on with images up here on a projected on the screen up here. You can see we've got a projector here, but then the instructor could just say, wait, let's just go and look over at this, the life support for this chrysal system here, and let's talk about the different components, or this coral reef system here. So it's a great opportunity for us to teach. One thing I want to add about this program too is that when the students are admitted into the program, we make it very clear they're now part of the profession. And so we expect them to act as professionals from the beginning. And one of the things they do is they maintain this whole building. While we have a facilities staff that will fix major things, it is the students that actually work as custodians in the building. They keep the building clean, they change out the garbage, they clean out the bathrooms and that kind of thing. And the idea is they need to have ownership of this facility, and they do. And then the students are also a group of students, small groups of students are given systems that they have to maintain. And this changes every 10 weeks throughout the course of their program. Just another view. You can see, this is a chilled system for some of our cold water invertebrates. Here's our reef system here, the chrysals. We have a little coral propagation system here as well. And we actually do quite well propagating coral, and actually have a number of facilities that will take our coral and give us credit for getting supplies or other animals in for other projects as we go through. This is the student workshop, where the students can work on a lot of their projects and design and build systems. And we have all the tools, and once they're checked out, they can use all of these tools once they've passed their safety tests. This is our animal holding laboratory, where we have a number of different systems where we hold a lot of our animals that are used in teaching, and that's everything from anemones and corals to this is a cold water or temperate water recirculating marine system, and we've got a couple elasmobranch systems over here. So the students are all maintaining these systems, and then when we're doing a lot of our classes on fish handling and things like that, we're using these animals. Just another view. Again, we have more lab bench space on each side of the room. We spend a lot of time teaching about biosecurity protocols and using our disinfectants and rinses and how to properly store things while they're drying. We spend a lot of time on that. Just some more views of, this is the animal holding laboratory. You can see this whole rack system here is emptied of tanks. So this is the system where the students that are in Aquarium Science 100, they'll be setting up aquariums here. They'll be in teams and they'll set up aquariums. And again, set an aquarium up and start it from scratch. So we make sure everybody understands how to cycle a system, and they do it on a small scale first. And then once they pass that class, they move into managing the bigger systems. Just some more examples, some of our freshwater tanks here. Here's some of our sharks, some bamboo sharks, cat sharks. This is a small larval rearing system we have here. And then many students like to do projects. So this is a system that's designed so they can do experiments with replicates in here. We have a hospital and quarantine facility where we can hold both warm and cool water animals in here. And basically everything that we bring into the facility goes through this quarantine room. and it goes through a quarantine process before they're moved into the rest of the facility. We can also do animal treatments back here as well. This is our food preparation lab, where the students learn to prepare foods. We have a small live culture area in the corner. You can kind of see it through the shelves here. We used to have our own separate culture room, but we didn't, it was way too big for our needs, so we've set it up in the corner here. But this is a very nice space for doing food prep. In fact, it was laid out by one of the graduates of the program who actually works for me now. He's my research aquarist, but before he became an aquarist, he was an executive chef. So you can see his touches in the facility. We get a lot of comments from employers that hire our students. They can usually tell when Sid is the aquarist, works for me, when he's trained them, because their techniques for preparing food look very similar to what you'd see in a commercial kitchen. This is our water quality and health lab. We have a teaching microscope set up here, a dissecting scope. Everything is routed in so we can also project it on the screen here. We can do health exams on animals in here. We have all the tools that we need. This is also set up. We have a number of lab sections where they can do water quality testing. Just gives you another view when we're, weighing out chemicals and things. We've got a fume hood if we need it. We've got an autoclave system in here as well. For water quality, we actually teach the students to use sort of the high-end, spectrophotometric systems, as well as our over-the-counter systems. We want them to be comfortable with both, because depending on where they work, they may not have access to this high-end equipment, but they need to understand how to use these, the drip tests, and understand the limitations of both techniques. And then I'll just sort of end with this. This is our storage area, which actually we all get very excited about. We are fortunate in that we have tremendous industry support. And so we have a lot of equipment that is available for our students to use. And a lot of this is donated. And we have a small budget for getting equipment. But our students can usually come if they want to build have a small project or build a small system. If they have the tank, we usually have the plumbing supplies and the habitat and such that will go into the system. We also been very fortunate through a grant. We have a nice set of microscopes and compound microscopes and dissecting scopes for our students to use. And again, this is all just in the process of developing this program and seeking funds to develop it, to make sure we have a good equipment for them to learn on. All kinds of plumbing pieces and valves and connectors and all that, all available, all really well organized, so the students can pull them out, and we can use it for teaching too, as we need to. And I guess I'll finally end up, COVID has made it very interesting for us. In terms of, last spring, it was very difficult for us. We had to cancel most of our lab-based courses. So we're trying to be very creative to try to get some of that information out to the students without being able to meet with them face-to-face was challenging. Now we're offering our lab courses again, and we're just doing it with social distancing. And this is my staff. We were out actually releasing an octopus into the wild, but I just thought I saw this picture and I thought it looked like an album cover. But anyway, what I wanted to point out is that these three students here, these three aquarists here, are actually former aquarium science students that work for us, and actually they've moved on now and are working at other facilities, except for Jamie here, who's actually working for us now. And this is our chief aquarist, Colleen, who oversees all the animal husbandry at our facility. But she's also somebody who works very closely and helps teach our students as well. And with that, I'll wind it up, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to. I'm trying to close down the screen.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tim Morgan.
Yeah.
Big thanks from Cochin University of Science and Technology, School of Industrial Fisheries. I think students Industry people from world over will be now excited to come and join your program. Thanks for explaining it in whole. Shall I ask you, how long is your video?
Is the video?
Yes, you were
Which,
mentioning about the facility.
it, oh, the video I took of the facility? I
Yeah.
didn't do that because I
All
decided
right.
that this would be a better
Okay.
way
Okay.
to do it.
All right.
If you want to see the facility, though, I'm putting in the chat right now a bunch of links
No, we can have it in.
for,
Yes.
yeah, the aquarium science program, the Marine Science Center, our aquarium. Anyway, you can see. So if you want to delve into these programs and then some of the partner programs, those are the links there. But if you go to the aquarium science program, there's also some more images of the facility as well.
Students from world over can apply to your program, right?
Soon. Right now,
Okay.
we have just received full accreditation, so we can
Mhm.
move towards accepting international students, but we can't take them right now. What we are looking
right.
at is offering intensive summer program where we can offer some
Yes.
of these courses in the summer, and that can be done.
Yes.
And
All students
I
would
would,
look forward to it.
yeah. So if you go, keep an eye on the aquatic animal health program link, and that's where we would, or our Facebook page, and that would where we give you information about when you can register for those.
Questions? Yes, there's a question coming up. Dr. Tim, what type water filters is best for use in our farms to prevent diseases? Can you describe some? Oh, that's a small simple question.
There's it
Yes.
really is going to vary with your particular system, what kind of system you have. I think, anything that's getting out particulates, if it's recirculating, obviously you want to have a good biological filtration system, but anything that gets out the particulates, and if you have particular disease problems, you may want to look at things like UV or ozone on the system as well. But really it depends on, I'd have to know what kind of system you have and what kind of facility you have to give specific examples. But basically it comes down to good husbandry, good filtration, getting out as much as the particulates and the dissolved solids and things like that. And then if you find you need to do UV or ozone, adding that on can be helpful too. But it's really going to depend. And there are other people that are probably better equipped than I am to comment on that. But without knowing what kind of system you had, even my life support expert would have a real tough time talking about what would be best.
Are you clear, Chamara? Chamara Mahagami from Sri Lanka asked the question. Well,
Okay.
Any other questions coming up? Tim has given us a highly informative talk on his program and center. Yes.
We're pleased with the program.
Yes, yes. The SOFI 2020, the international webinar, Sustainable Ornamental Fisheries Way Forward, is really thankful. Cochin University School of Industrial Fisheries is really thankful to have you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I really
We'll be in touch
appreciate the
with you.
invite. Thank you.
All right, we move on. Admin,
Okay.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.